I wanted to take the opportunity to sort of start the program on a track that we kind of had planned, and I know we've got other guests coming, so they'll be walking in after their own other meetings. But I wanted to introduce Sue Lorimer, our Vice Chancellor from Los Rios, that's hosting us today, and we're part of Los Rios as well. And Vice Chancellor Lorimer is the responsible for education and information technologies for all of the colleges that you see up there. And we're like a fifth college, if you will, for economic and workforce development. I also want to quickly recognize some of our friends from the community, like some of our speakers, and Chris Flores from Congresswoman Matsui's office, Faith from Congressman Barra's office. There she is back there. And we have a couple of our friends from the State Chancellor's office that we work with hand in glove in trying to bring this global trade, global entrepreneurship thinking to the Sacramento region, to our students, and to our workforce. So I'm going to introduce Vice Chancellor Lorimer, and I'll let you take it from there. And let me see if I can get this off. If you want that, I think we can do that. Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. We're delighted to have you here in Los Rios, and I also want to add greetings on behalf of our Chancellor, Dr. Brian King. It's very exciting to have this kind of work being done here in the district, and I see folks from our colleges as well as a number of guests here. So I wish you a very productive day, and thanks again for joining us here.
Thank you, Sue. So I think, you know, the idea that we're trying to work with here is in helping our region move forward with something that's near and dear to everybody's conversations lately. It's Sacramento's next economy. And the next economy has some industry sectors that we all are pretty aware of. And one of the top 5 goals is the growth of exporting for our region's businesses. And you know, that's a pretty big forethought when you look at how global trade and growth in global trade helps create new jobs, create new revenue for businesses, and keep the jobs that are here. And that's kind of the mantra of the U.S. Commercial Service. I used to be one, so I can sort of take that with ease into putting this program together. It's one of the ideas that foreign direct investment, growth in international trade creates jobs, brings new jobs to the area, and keeps them here. And I think I'd use that as an entree for my friend Bob Burris from the Sacramento Area Commerce and Trade Organization, whose goals and visions are right in line with global trade, but they have a job of bringing businesses internationally here. So I'm going to let you share a little bit of that with us, Bob, and appreciate you coming today.
Well, thank you for having me. Actually, very excited to be here. As I was mentioning to Brooks as I walked in, international business is a part of our business portfolio like never before. There was a time, and I'm going to go through some of the data here, there was a time that actually a very small amount of our business in terms of economic development and business attraction was international related. And now it's roughly, as I'm going to show you, 1 of every 3 to 1 to every 4 companies that we're working with are based overseas, as they see California as a critical part of our nation's economy and a great place to enter the U.S. economy with a number of factors involved. But first, I'd like to introduce you to SACTO. For those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, we're the Economic Development Corporation for the 6-county Sacramento region, and that represents about 28 jurisdictions, cities and counties there within. We've been around for 39 years, approaching 40 years. I haven't been there for 40 years, closer to 14, but we're close to a century of experience within our small organization. We're really only about 8 people that have been there a number of years. So we bring with us a lot of experience, a lot of that coming from the experience of working with companies from the outside that are looking and considering the Sacramento region as a good place to build their business and expand. we're almost entirely privately funded. So, 75 to 85% of our funding comes from companies. So large and small, those that want to be a part of the growth of the Sacramento region and to play a critical role in bringing companies to our area and creating the pathway for them to grow. They become part of the recruitment process and also part of the ramping up process for companies landing here. So you can imagine there's a lot of service companies, networking, legal, accounting, all of those that help companies grow smoothly. Very important. But also, combined in that 15 to 25% is all of the private public jurisdictions within the Sacramento region. So they also play a critical role in what we do. And we work with, many times, the economic development agencies and city managers and city or county executives as our main point of business. We're one of the few economic development organizations that has a full-fledged research institute in-house. It's a group of 3 people, all with economic degrees, master's degrees, and they do everything from land use research to economic and wage research. And you can imagine when you're working with companies that are learning about the Sacramento region for the first time, that becomes very effective. The fact that we're able to turn around RFPs and requests for information in hours instead of days, that makes our region very competitive when we're competing against other regions, states, and even countries at times, and getting those site selectors and company executives information very quickly. So over the last 30 years or so, we've helped with several hundred companies, creating about 130,000 new jobs in the Sacramento region. And now when you consider that we have about 870,000 jobs, that's a pretty good chunk of the economy that we have here today that we've at least been able to assist. And what I'm going to talk about today is not just the travel that we do nationally, but the travel we do internationally and the business that we do overseas in order to bring trade and investment to the Sacramento region, but also open up pathways for our companies to work internationally. Slide, please. So I just wanted to illustrate the region that we cover. It's a pretty large area. We go all the way up to Tahoe, although I don't spend as much time up there as I'd like to. So it's mainly what we call the flatlands of the Sacramento region. It's an area of about 2.4 million people, as many of you are aware. We go from Davis to Tahoe and then all the way up into Yuba and Sutter counties. So I also wanted to show you our track record over the last 9 to 12 months. These are the companies that we've helped bring to the Sacramento region or expand. And one of the things I wanted to show you here is that about half of those companies are foreign-based firms. Many of those, this is their first location in the United States. Examples of those are Shinmei, which is I guess you'd call it a sister company of a company that landed the year before called Nippon Shokin. These are both Japanese firms. They make food products. This is their national headquarters. They both landed literally across the street from one another in West Sacramento. Combined, they'll create roughly 750 jobs in the Sacramento region that build out, and was a huge success. ProSeal America, down there second from the bottom, also involved in the food and agricultural business. They do food packaging machinery. So if you've been to the grocery store and you purchase pre-made salads in bags from Taylor Farms or some of those other products, Driscoll's strawberries, they manufacture the packaging for those types of companies. UK-based company. They do have a location on the East Coast, and this is their first on the West Coast. They chose Sacramento for its central location, great logistics, access to agriculture and food processing, and their desire to work with the University of California, Davis, and all of their agricultural and food technologies. Let me see, Kuretake, second from the top, a Japanese company. This is their first location, also national headquarters. They manufacture pens and paper, believe it or not, but with unique designs, and their market is growing very rapidly in the United States. Very small, but again, these are jobs that create good economic impact. They are manufacturing. First First location in the US, and they'll be expanding relatively soon. And then another foreign-based company that's probably the largest company we've worked with in the region for a while, Bayer Crop Science. Now, this is actually a merger and expansion of two Bayer operations in Davis, Bayer Newnham's and AgriQuest, both doing crop science. Bayer decided to merge these operations and purchase a former biotech plant in West Sacramento of about 160,000 square feet. They will be creating about 160 jobs, almost entirely crop and ag scientists that will support research nationally, and their area headquarters is in North Carolina. For the time being, we're going to bring that out soon enough. So you'll see a lot of these companies. In fact, if you tally up the total number of jobs created in this period of time, 1,345, about 700 of those jobs are coming from foreign investment, companies based overseas. So you can see why that's becoming very important to our efforts in business attraction and an important part of our future marketing strategies. Now, on the prospect side of things, so those of you in sales know that as important as getting that sale is you want to track all the information that you gather from prospective companies so that you can tweak your marketing and guide your activities moving forward. So what we like to do is when we start talking to a company that's very interested in the Sacramento region, we gather as much information about them as they can, all the way down to where are their senior managers from, because we do like familiarity with California and the Sacramento region, and that helps our process. But where they're going, how they're growing, where their funding comes from, where are they based, and what are their future plans. So one of the things we ask, well, we don't ask, we find out where they're coming from, where's their base of operations, and where are their other operations in the United States. And then we aggregate that data to show overall all of the prospects in our database, where are they coming from. So this is a time graph with each point on the line designating the percentage of our prospects coming from those origins. So you can see the one that's changed the most is that dark blue line. That goes back about 10 years. So about 10 years ago, companies coming from outside of the US was just under 10% of our total prospects. You'll see what's happened over the next 10 years. It's now roughly 25% of our total prospects moving forward. And you can see from the companies that have landed, that's even a greater number, a greater hit rate that we get from those companies that are interested from overseas. Another thing that's interesting too, just anecdotally, this region's growth comes quite a bit from the Bay Area, from the San Francisco Bay Area, the migration inland that we see when there's a huge cost differential between our two areas, which is occurring right now. And we're starting to see that activity again. You can see where that has actually gone down from a peak of about 35% about 9 years ago to about 20% now. But I can tell you, this is a lot of data in here, and sometimes it takes a little bit of information to make those lines move. And over the next 2 or 3 months, we're going to see that Bay Area line start to go up again. But nonetheless, a big part of our business is international, and we're going to continue to focus on that. So why are they interested in California and Sacramento? And believe me, when we go overseas, we talk about both, because there's a general knowledge about California, general desire to be a part of California, and understanding that this is a very large market, there's a lot of wealth here, and it's a great place especially to innovate and to do very progressive things. And that's the general perception you get. And of course, what we can do when we have that discussion is we narrow that discussion down to the Sacramento region and say, well, not only can you have all of that, but you can have it in an affordable marketplace, similar to other major cities in the Western United States. And that's really what we're selling. So we see California as target number one. Those companies love the fact being in California. In Sacramento, what makes us unique especially is we're the capital and the policy headquarters for the largest state in the United States. And what we think is the most progressive state in the United States. And in certain industries, that really helps us out because, especially say in clean technology or in energy marketplaces, there needs to be a crossover between public and private policy. And this is the place to have that conversation. Of course, we're affordable. Right now, we're about half the cost of the Bay Area, both in business and living. And that difference doesn't seem to be shrinking right now. So of course, that's driving a lot of activity. It's driving a lot of activity from companies coming from out of state as well. We recently landed a company called NetBrain Technologies that was based in Boston. They wanted a West Coast presence. They searched the San Jose area, decided that one, they couldn't get the employees that they needed, the engineers they needed for a reasonable cost. They couldn't expect to keep them, and they couldn't expect to house them comfortably. And with that, they started looking inland, and they landed in the North Natomas area, created 25 engineering jobs, and that company's on a rapid growth path. They were just named top 20 software companies in the nation by CIO magazine just a couple days ago. We have a talented workforce and a balanced workforce, so you can do just about anything you want to do in the Sacramento region, from the smartest technologies to manufacturing to distribution. And that's important to companies as well, especially those technology companies that want to do all of those things: manufacture, distribute, and market. We have some of the strongest utilities in the United States, and again, most progressive, with the most use of renewables, I think, than any other location in the United States. Strong academic institutions, including where we're standing right now with our community colleges in Los Rios. And I would say the community colleges are probably the most adaptable to what we're trying to do in the marketplace. UC Davis and Sacramento State provide tremendous horsepower to what we're doing in innovation and graduating those skill sets. We're safe from natural hazards. I should always say an asterisk after that. I should say one of the safest places in the United States. We do have a few risks associated with the Sacramento region, but that's actually been very positive for us to learn about as we see more data type facilities, co-location facilities, search for sites, and we've had quite a bit of success in that regard. Our central location within the United States is very important to what we're doing, as we're almost equidistant from Seattle as we are San Diego, and with a very strong transportation system, great access for both people and products throughout the western United States. And of course, the one thing we play on and platform on is when we do land a company in the Sacramento region, we make sure to work with those companies to get the word out to fellow companies and their suppliers and their connections in the locations that they come from. All extremely important as we head out overseas to bring in companies. So Brooks mentioned next economy, and that plays a role in the types of companies that we go after, how we do it, and the teams that we build in doing that. So these are the core areas that the Sacramento region has a competitive edge, where they would have the most impact, and the companies or the industries that we'd like to go after. Advanced manufacturing, exceptionally important. Of course, ag and food production, that's probably hottest on our list right now. In fact, we're getting about a new prospect per day right now. And these are everything from small boutique olive oil companies coming out of the Bay Area to international flour, rice-based, type major food processors. And by the way, we have several companies right now looking at the former Campbell Soup facility, which is Capital Commerce Center. Many of you know we lost several hundred jobs there when Campbell's closed their soup plant. But it's very nice, especially in this environment, to be able to offer a 1.6 million square foot facility that can bring 6 million gallons per day of water to any company that lands there. And of course, water is very important to food processors. So we're receiving a lot of interest in that regard. This has become a life science and healthcare hub for the Western United States, especially with UC Davis at its anchor. And we have tremendous institutional research happening here with this, which is also a point of gravity for that industry and those companies coming here. And then there are other areas where it may not be as high a priority, but still we're receiving quite a bit of activity, and that's in clean energy. We're actually working with several private universities that are considering landing in the Sacramento region. one of those international UK-based company, or UK-based university that's considering the South Placer area for a major campus. And then standard and current cyclical activities. So that's what we call everything else. Those companies that come to us and say they want to create jobs in the region, we never turn away companies that are interested in creating jobs or investing in the Sacramento region. We always find the help that they need. So where are we in terms of international activities? These are our core areas, our core tactics in order to not only get visibility and attention for the Sacramento region, but to actually go out and talk to international investors and company leads. One of the things that we're doing now, and we have truly been doing this over the last 7 or 8 years, is developing our international trade networks, both domestically and outside of the US. Those are like the German-American Business Association and JETRO, the Japanese trade organization. All of these international trade organizations that have a base in the United States, because we know being close to that network, we can provide information for their use, but as well be on the receiving end of interested parties that are working to invest more in the US or create jobs. We're working along existing channels that have existed for a long time with overseas opportunities, and those might be the university that has trade experience but also research experience, or partnering research with locations overseas, or satellite campuses, or existing organizations like the one we have hosting today that has those existing strands, or the World Trade Center with existing strands overseas that we can utilize as a platform. We're creating new opportunities for partnerships. So those companies that we're starting to talk to, the financial institutions that work overseas, and public agencies, we're working to build that network as well. We're pitching projects for foreign direct investment to potential investors overseas. In fact, my colleague, Sherry Little, will be heading over to China in 2 weeks with a delegation from the Sacramento area to attend several meetings in Chongqing. As many of you know, Chongqing has a reciprocal trade office with the city of Sacramento. And they're in the works now. They have in the process a California lifestyle center they're going to be building there so we can showcase our products from the Sacramento region. And we see a tremendous amount of opportunity to work very closely with that region of China, a fast-growing region, very industrial, and to meet with potential investors. Now, when we say pitching projects, we've actually gone out to the region and found those projects that we've learned might be of interest to those folks. And that could be hotels or infrastructure or even startup companies that might be of strategic use or also have the potential to generate a lot of return for those companies. We're broadcasting our achievements like never before, especially those that are internationally unique. Innovation coming from UC Davis, or new companies starting here, or new products and services that aren't available anywhere else. We're utilizing the asset of the capital. Of course, very important for companies coming from the Pacific Rim, seeing that we're the basis of policy and leadership for the state of California. We're promoting the opportunities for global trade, working with the Brookings Institution. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but it was recently announced that the Sacramento area was, through the World Trade Center, was accepted in the next cohort to work in tandem with the Brookings Institution to find a strategy for expanding exports and trade from the Sacramento area. So we'll be working on that along with CSER, the Center for Strategic Economic Research, our in-house research group, in doing a lot of research, doing an inventory of the region for potential opportunities, and building the program for the region of Sacramento to expand trade. And then finally, we're going to be hitting the road, more than we have been in the past. I'll be heading to Holland in about 3 or 4 months to attend the Food Valley Conference. Of course, food is very important to me personally, but to this economy. And Holland and Food Valley and the Arnhem area, that's the base for food innovation for all of Europe. They already have several ties to the Sacramento region and UC Davis through their university, Nijmegen. And we're seeing a tremendous opportunity to link our industries, company to company, researcher to researcher, and investor to investor. So we're going to be spending a lot of time in airplanes coming up in the next few years as we expand and up-level what we're trying to do in the Sacramento region. Our goal is to create 35,000 new jobs in the Sacramento region, and we're well on track to do that. And with that, I guess I'll open it up to a few questions if we have the time. Are we okay, Brooks? Okay.
We should do.
All right, I explained it all. No
That was so
questions.
comprehensive.
Great. Great. Thank you.
Welcome one of our guests from the Secretary's Office of the California Department of Food and Ag, Josh Eddy, who's been with us in the Centers for International Trade Development for years, and we are in their Ag Export program. And we continue, our office in Fresno is the lead Center for International Trade, and we work together as a group statewide to try to promote food and ag. So Sacramento being captured as an ag and food hub is a natural. Also like to recognize a couple of our guests, the Consul General from Mexico, Carlos Gutierrez, and the Honorary Consul of New Zealand, Star Hurley, one of my contemporaries, since I'm the Honorary Consul of Bulgaria as well. I think we'll move forward kind of into our next speaker, who I've known and met in various circles. We talked back in the DC area when the STEP program, the State Trade Export Program, was being funded and discussed and talked about. And I know Tom McGinty has had various roles in the commercial service arena, from being an acting assistant secretary and director general, which I used to be in the Foreign Service for Commerce, so that was the boss of that agency. And then in the domestic service, Tom is now the national director for the commercial service, and he'll tell you somewhat how that functions and what their roles are nationwide. George, to start, is my partner here at the U.S. Export Assistance Center, which we house right down the street in our CITD. So, Tom, I welcome you and thank you for taking the time to come all the way out here from the East Coast, because I know you're heading out right after this to Boise for a major event. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about what's happening with trade and some of the President's initiatives, and kind of putting this component about the need for us to globalize, if we can, our thinking in terms of the next generation of workforce and students. I know Tom was also a visiting scholar with a couple of universities back in the East Coast during his career as well, so he brings a rich background to us. And thank you for coming, Tom, and welcome to Sacramento and Los Rios. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brooks. Appreciate it. Appreciate the little secret gift last night, too, on the side of the road. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to get out of Washington. Couldn't be happier. In fact, that wasn't even a joke. That was sincere. Wow, this is going to be good. No, I was telling George earlier that it gives me energy. This is what energizes me to do my job every day back there. So thank you, Brooks. Thank you, George. George and I have been friends and colleagues for a long time. I reminded him in the car earlier today, this morning, that not so long ago, 7 or 8 years ago, George was actually named the most eligible bachelor in Sacramento. And I got the article. I still have the article. And shortly after, he took care of that problem. And since then, he's had 9 children and 4 divorces. 3 divorces, sorry.
3 divorces.
Oh, 3 children, no divorce. Okay. All right. George is nothing if not prepared, and gave me an entire speech, which is fantastic. The only problem is I can't read a speech. So I'm just going to talk. So we have a new Secretary of Commerce, Secretary Penny Pritzker. She has been absolutely a breath of fresh air. I don't think it's a secret that the Commerce Department has needed some strong professional leadership for some time. She has a very strong business background and has been a very aggressive leader of the department. One of the first things that she engaged in is a really aggressive strategic planning exercise. And the outcome of that exercise was to come up with 4 key priorities in order. And the first priority is the growth of American exports and foreign direct investment and promoting the U.S. as open for business and the best place in the world to do business, the best products to be exported to the rest of the world. So she has been very aggressive with us as an organization, which I take as a very positive thing. She points out on a regular basis, and I will now, as many of you know, that 95% of the world's population and purchasing power lives outside the United States. I'll remind everyone here that there are 40,000 roughly exporters in the United States. There are 300,000 exporters in the United States. We, as a commercial service, and she reminds us of this, only have a client base of about 20,000 companies. Now, that's not a small client base, but it's clear that we, working with you and all of our partners, have a lot of work to do in order to expand and, as she says it, integrate exporting and international business literally into the DNA and thinking process of the American business community. It's a big challenge for us. And as an organization, what we're trying to do is respond to that call in an aggressive way and respond to it by being less tactical, frankly. We're an organization that has claimed export successes, which is the positive result for a company when we help them to succeed in an international market. Certainly nothing wrong with that. It gives us, our people, a results orientation. It's very important. Chris Wiggins, we met this morning, has been helped already in Mexico, and we'll hear about that later on. But the point is that as an organization and as a leader of international business in the United States, successes one at a time at a tactical level will not get us to our Secretary's goal of getting into the DNA of the U.S. business community. So we're looking to do things differently. What are we doing? Well, first of all, we're getting support from Congress for the first time in a little while, which is very reassuring. We, last year, received additional funding in an environment where I think it's no secret all agencies aren't receiving this kind of support, where we're adding 64 new positions in our organization. And we're an organization that over the last few years, for those of you that may not have been aware, have had to cut positions, both in the United States and abroad. So we're adding 64 positions. Congress instructed us to add those positions in key markets in Asia and in key emerging markets in sub-Saharan Africa. So it's a very energizing time for us as an organization. In the US field, we have been in a period of decline since about 2006, where we were somewhere in the neighborhood of 330 people around the United States in our US Export Assistance Centers. When I came in last spring, about a year ago, we were at 259. Huge decline. We now have 29 vacancies out. So for those of you that would like to become part of our team, go to usajobs.gov. There are some great opportunities out there, and they're not entry-level opportunities in all cases either. I didn't know I was going to turn into an infomercial. Shut that off. They're not. We have some leadership transition too, and we have some very exciting senior positions that are in charge of whole regions of the United States that are open and are going to be competed very soon. So that's the good news in terms of our organization. Hopefully that will help us to work more effectively with all of you, where you need us, when you need us. It's no secret that overseas, in particular, the state offices from around the United States use us on a regular basis. We welcome that. We're part of the governor's team in that respect. I'm looking at part of the governor's team right now, aren't we? We're part of the governor's team. We also have received now the authority for the first time to do what many of our competing nations are able to do, and that is we're not just export promotion anymore. Now we also are charged with, through Select USA, the name of the program, Select USA, with promoting foreign direct investment into the United States for the first time. So we've developed a list of the key markets that we're focusing on first. And we had a Select USA Summit about a year ago in Washington that was oversold. President Obama attended and obviously keynoted the event to highlight the importance of FDI as a priority of the administration. And by the way, I think every city in the United States should have an organization like yours, Bob. That was very impressive. I'm sure you'd rather hear that from the president, but you've got me. So Select USA is increasingly important. We understand that states are engaged in this. Because a lot of you are in economic development, one of the things that I think is important to point out is that this is not being received with equal enthusiasm everywhere in the United States. Is that ever true of anything when you have 50 states? So our job as an organization through Select USA is to promote the US as the best destination in the world for foreign direct investment. It is not to choose winners state to state. So we're here as an umbrella organization to support each of the 50 states in an even-handed manner. So stay tuned, you'll hear more on that in the future. A third component, third change, which is good for us, exciting for us, is there was a consolidation, a reorganization last year within our parent, International Trade Administration. Sort of inside baseball stuff, but this is really important. We have always been the export promotion organization of the United States. Now we are a combination of promotion and policy and market access work. And that always should have been the case, I think. I don't know anyone that doesn't think that that's the case. But once you have a siloed organization, it's very difficult to get them to merge together. You have different cultures, different challenges. But when your companies are dealing with a market access barrier, you shouldn't feel like you have to go to a different stovepipe. And so we've integrated Select USA, export promotion, and that policy/market access component into our organization. It's a work in process. Those folks are in DC almost entirely, and we're working on getting them out to the field, getting them out to do direct business counseling work with our trade specialists around the country so that they become better informed about the needs of US business and can bring that information back to the trade apparatus in order to help on not just tactically for that one company, but where are the trends? You know, where are the real problems that need to be addressed that are going to impact many, many businesses? So that's the inside game. The external game, and I am not a trade policy person, I don't work for USTR, but I was asked to talk about this. I don't think it's any secret that the trade agenda is heating up in Washington and elsewhere. We have Trade Promotion Authority on the table. We have TPP, the Pacific Partnership, and then we have TTIP, the Europe-US partnership discussions. I'm not going to make specific policy comments on that because that's in the political realm right now, but what I will say, and this is Tom speaking, not the national director, I am very pleased to see that this administration has decided to take on some of the really big trade relationships. This doesn't mean anything, this isn't a disparaging comment about any other FTA, but 60% of the world's economy is on the table with these two negotiations. These are critically important. And you'll see people, you know, going into different camps and all of this. The point is that with a transparent process, with the right interests at the table, and all important interests at the table, this is a bold move and I think a good one. More importantly though, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, without Trade Promotion Authority, none of this may matter very much. That's the big nut that has to be cracked, because if we can negotiate all we want in terms of draft negotiations, but if there isn't an up or no vote in the Congress, then essentially you have 535 arbiters of success. So it's an important discussion. It's something that if you want to talk about later, we can. But I am going to stick to the fact that we are the executive agency that will administer these agreements, should they come into effect, and not comment on, the appropriateness of various policies or subsections of the text as it stands. The last thing I think I'll say, I'm probably skipping, I'm sure I'm skipping around, is I did work in academia for 4 years as a guest professor. I was at the Patterson School of Diplomacy and International Commerce, which is actually where I went to graduate school in Kentucky, of all places. And my understanding is that part of this discussion was supposed to be about global fluency and curricula. And it was a great experience for me. By the way, the stereotypes about academia, are there any academics in the room? I need to be quiet. I found them to be true. It's a great career, incredibly positive, reinforcing, energizing, just fun. Young people make you feel both young and old at the same time. It's really bizarre. But what was I saying? The point is that in that environment, and this is not a technical school, right? This is a school of diplomacy. In that environment, what I found remarkable, I didn't come in as an academic, right? I'm not a PhD. I came in as a practitioner. And what I found is that these kids, bright kids from Vandy, from some of the best schools all around the country, we had, Ivy Leaguers and others, they're not ready. And I know that they need a couple of years to get ready once they get out, but they're not ready in a very pragmatic, practical way. Their brains are ready. But when it comes to what does a work environment look like? How do bosses act? What does it mean to work in a team? Are you a good team player? What does it mean is it easier to write a 30-page paper or to write a really, really well thought out, succinct 1.5-page memo because your boss won't read anything longer than that? And how difficult is that? And if you don't, for example, do an outline and organize your thoughts, can you do that? Can you write because the literature majors that we had would basically present me with a 1.5-page poem about international trade. And they never could get to the end. There was no end. So I think that I'm sure it's true in the technical realm, but in academia, I found it remarkable. The other thing I'll say is their adaptability and their willingness to accept that as a weakness and something to work on was also really remarkable. But there needs to be more, in my estimation, there needs to be more people that want to, and this is not self-praise, I really mean this, that want to come out of a mid-career situation and bring their real-world experience to students. Last point on that is international students and how critically important they are. I could not have had successful classes without students from all over the world in there to enrich the classroom. You have this situation where, it's just like in America now, the homogenization of everything. Everybody has a lawn with Scots on it. Everybody has a franchise next door to them. There's a groupthink that goes along with that physical issue. It's a pet peeve of mine, but anyway. I think that bringing in those different perspectives changes everything. If you can get folks to really feel comfortable and talk about it, it changes everything. My 2 daughters, I'm really chatty today. My 2 daughters, one's in college, one's about to start college. She's graduating next week from high school. They're both going to school that was rated the #1 international program school in the United States. And that's not an accident. They're going there because they need to go there, and they want to go there. And by the way, that's Center College, believe it or not, a very small college in Kentucky. So, we'll see what I missed. I missed a lot. I guess I'll close and just point out that really what we're trying to do is take the Secretary's marching orders, take the good news of the last year or so, take the strong workforce that we have, take the partner network that we have, many of whom locally are in this room, and act as a force multiplier to really change the way U.S. companies think about doing business abroad. Because doing it tactically and doing it one at a time, there's nothing wrong with individual success, but if you don't change the mindset of the larger community, we're going to find ourselves with a growing share of a shrinking market, which is never where you want to be. So I want to thank you for having me very much. I know that, I don't know, am I supposed to introduce Mr. Chris Wiggins, or can I say a word about this? I like to talk. I can talk. So this morning, George got me up at 7:15, which I don't like. And I thought, oh, I have to get up at 7:15. I want to do this. It was really cool. We went out to Chris's place. He's a one-person shop, small business, 2 years in, that makes these really cool battery-operated, he would do better, bikes that are sort of a cross between a bike and a scooter. We drove one. I drove one in my suit. And it was just really exciting to see somebody that, you know, I don't make anything, okay, except for trouble in Washington. This guy is putting it all on the line to develop a business, and he's working to go global right away. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. I think it's very exciting. I'd like us to give him his first hand. And so we, with our partners, with Brooks, George obviously, and Tony, our team, also the SBDC, I believe, SBA, if not immediately, will over time. It takes a village. We all were brought to the table to help Chris, and Chris has done his first deal in Mexico, and has great prospects for the future. And I think it's a great credit to Chris that he's one of those folks that is, you know, recognizes that resources around you should be used. They're there to benefit you, and that's what we are. So, Chris, if you could come up. And we'll... Don't fall.
I do my best not to.
Should we get out from behind here? Are we good?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Okay. I'm in the middle. Thank you. I just wanted to comment a moment or two. You should have seen these guys in suits riding our machine this morning. It was fantastic, and he had a lot of good laughs and jumped right on and took off. It was fantastic. And the other thing I'll comment on is it's been great working with U.S. Commercial Service and all the folks mentioned here involved with helping us go to Mexico, and great experience. I'm sure glad I found out about, you know, the resources to work with, and I'm going to continue doing so. And a case in point, I got an email this morning from a dealer out of the Netherlands, and thanks to the group again having support there at the consulate in the Netherlands. So we're excited. We'll see where that goes.
Great. Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.